A long-awaited comic book movie is finally in theaters this weekend, but Sean McBride, the movie guy, says that you might be better off watching movies at home. Here's Sean with all the details.
How far are we allowed to go to fix something that's broken?
In Morbius, Jared Leto plays a doctor who turns himself into a vampire in order to find the cure to a deadly blood disease. Now that sets up an intriguing character conflict because the good doctor is still trying to help humanity, but he's also struggling with his insatiable thirst for human blood. Unfortunately, character opportunities aside, Morbius is a mediocre comic book flick. It's quickly paced, but the special effects muddle the action and Leto seems miscast in this role. It's not horrible, but it's not what we'd hoped for either.
We accidentally built the lunar module a little too small.
A much better film is Richard Linklater's Apollo 10½, streaming on Netflix. This is a delightful bit of nostalgia where a boy growing up in Houston in 1969 imagines himself thrust into a pint-sized space race. It's a fun little fantasy, but it's the loving look at a bygone era that really makes this film sing.
We are one of 2 movies in production right now. If we fail, the studio is going to go down.
Also on Netflix, The Bubble, the story of actors trying to work while quarantined during the pandemic. It wasn't screened for critics, but it's got a very talented cast, so it's definitely worth mentioning.
Oh, sometimes I get a good feeling, yeah.
Finally, fresh off its Best Picture win at the Oscars, CODA returns to movie theaters for those of you without an Apple TV subscription. This feel-good story of a daughter growing up in a family where everyone else is deaf is an artistic triumph and a real crowd pleaser.
I've never done anything without my family before.
And those are this week's new movies. I'm Sean McBride, the movie guy.
All right, Sean is here with his reviews.
Okay, well, let's start off with Morbius because I think that is this week's big film. It's a film that was actually finished in 2019 and it was going to be released, but then the pandemic happened and so they pushed it, and then it found a new date, but then there was a new variant and they pushed it and they pushed it. It's finally in theaters this week. This is an interesting film because I think it's a good character, this idea of this doctor who's trying to help humanity and cure this blood disease, but in doing so he becomes a vampire. And so he's trying to cure things, but he also wants to kill people. You know, it's an interesting character here. I don't think this movie works very well. I think it's got some okay stuff in it, but the action I think is kind of muddy. I don't think Jared Leto's pretty good at this.
Yeah.
He's kind of miscast. Just not a great film.
Totally skippable is what I read.
Okay.
So you would agree.
Yeah.
Let's move on to Apollo 10½, right? And there's a Texas connection
Well,
here.
yes, very much so. This is, it's a film, I love the concept. It's this kid, and he comes up with this fantasy where NASA built the space shuttle back in 1969, but they got the math wrong, so it's too small for Neil Armstrong. They need a grade school kid to go up, and it's his idea. You know, I went to summer camp, but really I was at NASA prepping to go to the moon. It's a fun little thing, but in particular, it's a love letter to the nostalgia of Houston in the 1960s.
Oh, a lot of folks here will like that. That's on Netflix.
That's on Netflix. You can stream that right now.
Okay, now we have...
Well, let's go to CODA next, because that's the one that a lot of people were saying, hey, I want to see this, but I don't want to subscribe to Apple TV. It is in theaters now, just fresh off its Academy Award for Best Picture win. I think this is a brilliant movie. I was telling Dan this morning, I saw this back in it was December of 2020, the first time I saw this movie, and it still stays with me. I think it's just a really emotional, crowd-pleasing, feel-good movie. I think the screenplay is amazing. I think the acting is very good. Obviously, Troy Kotsur just won the Academy Award for Best Supporting Actor. If you want a feel-good movie and you don't want to subscribe to Apple TV, that's it's worth subscribing. Yeah. But go to the movie theaters. It's movie theaters this weekend.
So it's returning. And for folks who don't know, the reason there's captions...
It's because CODA stands for Children of Deaf Adults. And so there's a lot of American Sign Language. So if you speak sign language, you'll be fine. But I don't, so I had to read it as well. So really good movie.
And
really
that was Best Picture.
That won Best Picture this past week. Does anyone remember the Best Picture? There was so much controversy.
I know there's so much controversy. Everyone will know Will Smith and Chris Rock.
We don't remember who won the award.
I know. At least they gave out the right one.
Exactly.
Remember that?
No, La La Land, Moonlight.
Yeah.
So no, it's a good movie. And Best Picture, Best Supporting Actor, Best Adapted Screenplay. Really good movie.
Sean, thank you very much indeed.